大家好，我是Kaixi. As some of you already know, I am pregnant. I'm now into my second trimester, and since announcing that I am pregnant, I've started getting a lot of advice from people about things that I should do and that I shouldn't do. A lot of these things are the same whether you're from Canada or you're from Taiwan, since they're based in science. For example, most people say that it's safer to avoid undercooked or raw meat or raw fish like sashimi, and also undercooked eggs, which I'm really sad about because I love eating poached eggs. But I've also started hearing about some restrictions that are more based in superstition or tradition. Seems like Taiwan has quite a few of these, and I thought they were really interesting, so I decided to do some research and made a list of some old wives' tales about pregnancy from both Taiwan and North America. Before I go into my list, I just want to put a little disclaimer out there. I'm not a very superstitious person, so I might be sharing some of my own opinions with you as well. But if your opinions are different, that's totally cool too. I respect whatever you believe, so yeah. Number one is you shouldn't move while you're pregnant. The general explanation for this one seems to be that if you move, you might end up disrupting the baby or the fetus's chi. In English, we might say that's like the energy or the soul of the baby. And if you disrupt that, it might cause health problems for the baby. I also heard it's especially important not to move your bed because your baby's soul arrives first, and it often chooses to be somewhere around the bed. So if you move the bed, it might scare away the fetus's soul. I actually found out about this belief right after we moved. When we found out that I was pregnant, we decided that it would be best to move to a new apartment because our old one had some problems with it. It wasn't the best place to raise a baby, and I needed to be closer to the hospital that I want to deliver at. So in my opinion, sometimes it's just necessary to move, and it's actually better for the baby in the long run. But I can kind of understand why this belief might exist because moving is really tiring. We hired a moving company when we moved, so I avoided lifting anything too heavy. But it was still pretty tiring packing up all your stuff and cleaning both apartments and all that. So in the end, it's still not ideal to move while you're pregnant. So I can understand this one. Number two is you shouldn't use scissors, needles, or nails while you're pregnant. The idea behind this one is also to do with the baby's energy or its soul. There's a fear that if you use these things, you might accidentally cut into it. And if you do that, it could cause the baby to be born with some problems. I wonder if it also comes from a place of wanting to protect pregnant women from doing things that are too tiring or from handling dangerous or sharp objects that might hurt them. The next one is also one that I personally was warned about, and it is that you can't go to funerals or weddings if you're pregnant. When it comes to funerals, it's basically just because there is bad chi or bad energy there. It's just not a happy occasion. And for weddings, it also has to do with chi, but this time it's the other way around. The bride's chi is thought to be the most important on that day, so it's best that you not interfere with it with your good news. Basically, you shouldn't steal her thunder, I guess. And this kind of makes sense to me because in the West, we also really respect the bride on her wedding day. For example, when we go to a wedding, we're not supposed to wear white because it's disrespectful to the bride. She is the only one that should be wearing white on her wedding day. All right, the last ones from Taiwan that I have are all to do with food. The first one that I heard about was that consuming soy sauce will make your baby's skin darker, and consuming pearl powder will make your baby's skin fairer. So I looked into this, and it seems that scientifically there's no evidence that soy sauce will make your baby's skin darker, but I guess it might be a good idea to avoid using too much soy sauce in your cooking while you're pregnant, since it does have a high sodium content, and too much sodium can cause fluid retention and also high blood pressure while you're pregnant, which is not good. And I also saw a doctor talking about pearl powder, and they said that it won't make skin lighter, but it is high in calcium, which is good for pregnant women. Another belief about food is that you should avoid cold foods or cold drinks. I think this is probably the biggest or the most common belief here. I actually already got some comments and messages from people giving me advice about this. In the West, we don't really have this belief, or at least in Canada we don't. And actually, you guys might be surprised to know that in North America, when you give birth in the hospital, they'll actually give you ice chips to chew on while you're waiting to give birth. So yeah, obviously it's not something that we stay away from. So I'll probably continue drinking cold water and eating ice cream, but to each his own, so you can decide whatever's best for you. The last food related belief that I found is that you shouldn't eat duck or mango. Traditionally, these are seen as more inflammatory foods, and they might make it more likely for your baby to develop allergies. And I thought this one was especially interesting because I actually have an app that helps me track my pregnancy, and it suggests foods that are good for you during pregnancy. And one of the foods that it suggested was actually mango. And the reason behind that was that mango is high in folate, which is a really important nutrient when you're pregnant. Number one is that eating peanuts or dairy can cause your baby to be allergic to them. So this one has been proved wrong. Apparently allergies tend to run in families, so if a pregnant woman has an allergy, her baby might be more likely to have it, but not because she's eating certain things. Okay, the next one is also related to food, and it is if you eat strawberries, your baby will be born with a red birthmark. Obviously this one is completely wrong. You can eat strawberries when you're pregnant, it's fine. But in English, there is a birthmark named after strawberries, so maybe that name is the reason behind this myth. The next one is if you have heartburn, it's because your baby has a lot of hair. I think this one is actually a really common one in the West, and there have been studies that have tried to link this, but there's no conclusive evidence that it's true. Heartburn is just super common in pregnancy. I actually had really bad heartburn for a while too, and when I asked my doctor about it, she told me that the foods that you eat really affect that as well. So she suggested that I avoid fried foods and soda, things like that, and that's helped me. So I guess hormones and foods are more likely to affect it than how much hair is on your fetus's head. Another old wives' tale from the West is that you shouldn't stretch your arms above your head because it can cause the umbilical cord to strangle your baby. That sounds pretty scary, but don't worry, it's not true. I'm guessing this one has something to do with not wanting pregnant women to exert themselves too much. If you're stretching your arms above your head, you might be doing things like hanging up the laundry to dry or something like that. And I mean, if it gets me out of doing a chore, that would be great. But honestly, it's good to exercise while you're pregnant, as long as you don't do anything too crazy. All right, the last pregnancy myth on my list is that cats smother or suck the breath out of babies. Obviously, it's not true that cats suck the breath out of babies. Some people think it might come from when people were looking for an explanation for SIDS. So back in the day, people had no idea about this issue. So basically they decided to blame it on cats. And this kind of makes sense because a long time ago in Western culture, cats were often associated with witches and evil. So it's not too crazy to think that they might blame cats for bad things like this. Nowadays, people still worry about cats sometimes being around sleeping babies because they worry that the cat might accidentally smother the baby. Maybe they think the baby smells good because it has the scent of milk, or they just like being around the warmth of a baby. This actually isn't a common problem at all, but people usually try to err on the side of caution Most of you guys know that we have 2 cats, and I'm not worried about them being around me or the baby, but I probably wouldn't let them into the crib just in case. I think as long as you use common sense, there's no reason to worry about it. Alright, that's it for this video. Leave a comment below letting me know what you think of the superstitions that I mentioned, or any other ones that you know of. 谢谢你们收看，记得按赞、留言还有订阅，下次见，拜。Special thanks to FUNDAY for sponsoring this video. If you're interested in learning English, make sure to check out the info in the description box below and use my link to register for FUNDAY to get 1 free English class plus 30 days access to a huge variety of English learning resources.